Welcome back, everyone. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for today's explainer. Now, usually we tackle all sorts of complex data and research on this show, but today we're stepping right into the kitchen. Actually, scratch that. It's more like a laboratory today. For the duration of this explainer, you can just go ahead and call me the Lasagna Architect. Our mission today is highly specific and, honestly, surprisingly challenging. We are going to engineer a structurally sound, perfectly moist, and incredibly flavorful turkey lasagna. I want you to just forget everything you know about haphazardly tossing ingredients into a baking pan. We're going to stress test this classic dish and literally build it from the foundation up. So, you might be wondering, why do we even need to engineer this? Well, we have to look at the traditional build. Building a traditional lasagna with beef and pork is incredibly, structurally forgiving. Those meats have a super high fat content and this amazing built-in flavor that practically guarantees success. It's almost foolproof. But a standard turkey lasagna? Man, that is a whole different beast. Ground turkey is incredibly lean. When people try to swap it in at a simple 1-to-1 ratio for beef, the results are tragically predictable. You get dry, rubbery meat, totally bland flavor, and worst of all, the dreaded catastrophic soup failure. You know what I'm talking about, right? Where all the water leaches out and your beautiful layers just collapse into a sad puddle on the plate? No way. We are putting a hard stop to that today. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our exact architectural blueprint for success. We're going to construct this dish in 4 distinct phases. First, the compound protein base. Second, the hydro-reduced marinara. Third, the hydraulic cheese binder. And finally, Phase 4, the assembly architecture. Let's get straight to work. Starting off with Phase 1, the compound protein base. This is all about bridging that massive flavor gap. To pull this off, we're deploying our first major engineering hack, the sausage fat transfer technique. Because we're using 93% lean organic ground turkey, we are severely lacking in fat, which means we are lacking in flavor conductors. So we gotta bridge that gap. We take 1 pound of high-quality, organic Italian chicken sausage. Think of brands with the casings removed, like Belinsky's or Applegate. We heat up a Dutch oven, add that chicken sausage in first, and just render all of that beautiful, flavorful fat right out. Then, instead of draining it away, we drop our super lean turkey and a finely diced organic onion directly into that extracted sausage fat. It is a brilliant flavor transfer that completely transforms your turkey base. But now I've got a bit of a curveball question for you. Why on earth would we then take that cooked turkey and simmer it in a half cup of whole organic milk? I know, right? If you've never heard of this, it sounds totally bizarre. But it's actually a deeply traditional Bolognese technique, and it serves a critical scientific purpose in our lasagna architecture. Any guesses what it does? The microscopic chemistry happening here is just fascinating. Let's quickly trace the protocol. We rendered the chicken sausage, right? We transferred our turkey and onion into the fat. And then we introduced the calcium bath, that half cup of whole milk, and we simmer it on medium-high until it completely evaporates. Why? Because the calcium in the milk acts as a microscopic shield. It literally coats the meat fibers and protects them from tightening up when we introduce the highly acidic tomatoes a bit later on. The single simple step ensures the turkey remains velvety and tender, rather than turning into tough, rubbery little pebbles. It's a total game changer. All right, let's roll right into Phase 2, the hydro-reduced marinara. This entire phase is dedicated to aggressive moisture mitigation. The absolutely crucial metric for this phase is 20%. Remember that soup failure we talked about earlier? Yeah, this phase is entirely about eliminating water right now so it doesn't cause a structural collapse on your plate later. To make our marinara, we are taking 2 28-ounce cans of hand-crushed organic San Marzano tomatoes, some minced garlic, fresh basil, oregano, and a 1/4 cup of tomato paste. But listen, we don't just warm it up. We must simmer this sauce uncovered for 30 to 40 minutes. You absolutely must drive off at least 20% of the water volume from those tomatoes through aggressive evaporation. So how do you know if you've done it right? You'll know your aggressive moisture mitigation was successful by a very simple test. Your sauce has to be thick enough to physically stand up on a wooden spoon, not run off it like water. If your sauce is thin and watery, your lasagna is going to slide apart. We need structural integrity here, folks, and that means a dense, highly concentrated, hydro-reduced marinara. Moving smoothly to Phase 3, the hydraulic cheese binder. This is our ultimate strategy for preventing sliding layer failure. Our internal mortar relies on a very precise cheese composition. We are using 16 ounces of organic low-moisture mozzarella, and please listen carefully to this part. It must be shredded straight from the block. Never, ever use pre-shredded cheese from a bag for this. It's coated in these anti-caking starches that completely ruin the melt. We're pairing that block shredded mozz with 15 ounces of organic whole milk ricotta and 1 solid cup of Parmigiano Reggiano. And here's our secret Italian savory note. We whisk in exactly 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. It adds this incredible, subtle depth that just elevates the whole shebang. But having the right cheeses isn't enough. It's exactly how we process them that makes or breaks the build. Our all-out war on excess water continues right here. This first step, absolutely non-negotiable. You must drain your ricotta in a fine mesh sieve or cheesecloth for 30 whole minutes to get rid of the excess whey. Remember, turkey naturally releases water as it bakes. We simply cannot afford to add wet cheese into our delicate ecosystem. Once it's drained, we move to step 2, whisking 1 large egg. This acts as our structural glue. Finally, we mix the drained ricotta, the egg, half a cup of the Parmesan, our nutmeg, salt, and pepper. Notice we do not mix the mozzarella in here. We are saving that strictly for the layering process. And finally, we reach phase 4, the assembly architecture. Time for the final build and the curing process. All right, here is our master blueprint. Before we stack, a quick, crucial note on the noodles. Boil your organic lasagna sheets for exactly 2 minutes less than the package instructions. Keep them very al dente so they can act like little sponges, absorbing any remaining rogue moisture during the bake. Okay, let's build this beauty from the bottom up. We start with the foundation, just a thin smear of our thick meat sauce right on the bottom to prevent burning. Then, layer 1. Noodles, a third of our ricotta mix, a third of the meat sauce, and a generous handful of that block shredded mozzarella. Layer 2 is an exact replica of layer 1. Layer 3 caps off the internal structure, noodles, the very last of the ricotta, and whatever remaining meat sauce you have. Finally, the roof, a heavy, structural layer of the remaining mozzarella and Parmesan to create a beautifully browned crest. So the physical build is complete, but the engineering definitely doesn't stop at the oven door. Here is our thermal sequence. Phase 1. We gently tent the lasagna with foil, making sure it doesn't touch the cheese roof, obviously, and bake at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for 25 minutes. This brings everything up to temperature safely. Phase 2. We pull that foil off and bake uncovered for another 20 minutes until the edges are bubbling away and the roof is this gorgeous spotted golden brown. But listen to me. The absolute most critical step of this entire build happens after it leaves the oven. I want to read this quote straight from the source material, and I really want you to take it to heart. Mandatory rest. Let stand for 30 minutes. If you cut it sooner, it will collapse. This is the curing process, guys. While it's resting on the counter, that undercooked pasta is absorbing the very final bits of moisture, the cheese is stabilizing, and all those layers are locking together into one cohesive unit. If you take a knife to this magnificent structure right out of the oven, the superheated liquids will just rush out everywhere and you will have ruined all your hard work. Patience is literally an ingredient here.
And there you have it. By applying just a little bit of culinary engineering, transferring those fats, buffering with calcium, aggressively mitigating moisture, and treating our assembly like an actual architectural build, we have totally conquered the notoriously difficult turkey lasagna. It's moist, it's absolutely packed with flavor, and most importantly, it slices perfectly without a single drop of soup in sight. So now that you know the science of lasagna architecture, what other classic dishes are just waiting to be engineered? I really hope this explainer changes the way you look at the food you cook. Thank you so much for joining me in the lab today, and I'll see you next time.